I was renewed, re-elected to a 3-year term, and I will be the president-elect starting now through next June, and then the following year I should be elevated up to the president level, barring any complications that may arise. So that is one thing that I've just done. I did also receive my, there's an educational process, and so I completed a 3-year program that I've been attending, and so now I have a new professional designation. I can add some more numbers or letters after my name if I want to string them on there, but it's a business and retention and expansion professional, which is kind of like a chamber CCED or an economic development institute graduation type certification, which I also hold out of Norman, Oklahoma Educational Institute.
Yeah.
Had a good time while I was there. My wife got a vacation. I got to go to a week of school. So.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly glad that you went. Glad to hear that you're moving up the ladder of leadership in the organization. Got your designation. You're getting ready to let us pass you right by. Your humility is filling the room. So.
Thank you.
Is Brian still here, or?
He had to
No,
leave.
he
No,
has another engagement.
He's
Yeah.
skipped. Cheryl?
I do. First, I want to thank you for allowing us to do priority-based budgeting. I want to thank the staff again for all the hard work in putting together the submittal package for the award, for the Distinguished Budget Award. The second thing, I'd like to touch a little bit on the Branding and Marketing Committee. The subcommittee met, which consists of our resident, Steve Hale, our 2 council members, Lee Moore and Rich Melton, the communications manager, and your city administrator. We had a very productive meeting with the KCADC to talk about what we might put together in terms of logo or tagline, colors. We sent them away after about an hour and a half to put together some ideas and thoughts, and we are anxiously awaiting for our next meeting for them to come back and bring us some recommendations and thoughts. Depending on the committee's response to that, we'll be coming back to you after we get that, or we will be asking them to make some tweaks and changes, and then we will extend when we come back to you, but we'll give you an update after the committee meets for the second time.
One question really quickly on that. You know how much I love branding and marketing. Do we have an idea of what's the is the KCADC billing us for the hours we're spending right now on logo creation, or is that something that we're getting from Signature Authority? Or
thank you very much for asking that key question. We have a partnership with them. We have a membership. That membership costs us $10,000 a year. You asked us a few meetings ago about the value of that investment. I can tell you we probably would have spent $25,000 to $50,000 to get this product done. They're doing it for us at no cost based on our partnership. I reached out to their CEO, Bob Marcus, and asked them if they would help us, and they agreed to help us. In answer to your question about the $10,000, I think we've got it a couple times over.
So that's what I would consider a return on
So
investment.
thank you for allowing me to explain that.
And I appreciate your response. Thank you.
Ryan?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Laura?
I do.
Oh, give that woman a microphone.
I know, because I haven't had one long enough
Yeah,
tonight.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, because the weather is warming up, it's probably a really good time for me to give you a heads up on how the utility billing shut-off stuff works. As the weather heats up and bills get more expensive, we get more active in the shut-offs. And so just a couple things, maybe I can help you out with some things. All of the processes are laid out in our city code in Chapter 13 for billing and delinquency and termination. And shut-offs are always on Wednesdays. So if your phone rings on Wednesday in the summertime, it's probably going to be a utility customer. And the best thing I can tell you right up front is have them call the after-hours number, which is 6802. Because from there, the answering people answering service people will contact staff, and staff will handle it from there. On Wednesdays, utility billing staff coordinates with utility staff, and they have all the information about why they're off. You could assume that they're off for non-payment, and that's handled differently than emergencies. The staff will handle whether or not it's an emergency or whether they're off for non-payment. And I talked about this in the Citizens Academy, but I'll talk about it here too, for your benefit. We're really about customer service first. So we have made it every conceivable way we could think of for payment. There's drop boxes, you can come in person, you can do it over the phone, you can do it yourself online. But the biggest thing we want everybody to know is there isn't really any reason to be on the shut-off list in the first place. We move heaven and earth to make payment arrangements for people. And if they're having a problem, please pass the word. Come to us first before you end up with red is bad, a delinquency notice, and if you ignore that, you get this, and this is really bad, and this actually says, no surprise, you're off for non-payment. And if you're off for non-payment, because we're already here Monday through Friday, extended hours, and we're here on shut-offs until 6 o'clock. So if you come in the door at 5:59 with payment, we're going to stay until you're turned back on. But once you're off for non-payment, because we're offering everything on the planet to help you, you're off till morning. So for you, if your phone rings on Wednesday night, the answer is call after hours, 856-6802, and staff will take it from there. Does that help?
Tremendously.
Okay, don't get involved. Let staff handle it, because we have all the info. And really, please spread the word. You're ambassadors.
Yep.
Come to us before we get to this point, and we'll see what we can do.
I was going to ask you about this because this comes up every year.
In winter and summer.
Winter and summer,
Mhm.
winter for gas and summer for electric, and I know that, you know, I get the gas, Kansas gas, I'm sorry. I don't even see the bill, you know why? Because I have it on equal pay, and so every month I have equal pay, and it spreads it out over.
We have that
a
too.
period. And I was gonna ask about that, because I didn't see that option, it's something that you have to call in to get, correct?
You have to come in.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with budget billing is you gotta have 12 months of history, or we don't know what to bill you.
Correct.
But if you are a customer in good standing,
Mhm.
because we don't want to talk to you about budget billing after you've run up several $1,000s in delinquency or whatever. That's
That's
not
the
okay.
current, yeah.
Right. Be current and have enough history for us to do something reasonable for you. We also have budget billing, so you're right, I forgot to mention that. But we have, the key thing here is, if in doubt, call utility billing.
Yep.
Come in, call, email. We really don't want you to be in the position to be turned off in the first place, because nobody's happy. And when the weather's hot or the weather's cold, customer's cranky, and then they call you.
Yep.
Your answer is after hours, 6802. We'll take it from there.
Yeah, I don't know who else might have got the call. I got a call on Wednesday. I know they called Rich. Did they call anybody else? They called you too?
Yeah.
I wasn't able to take his call. I wasn't able to take the person's call at first, but, well, if he'd called back, it would have been a little more conciliatory, I think.
And there isn't
But,
any reason for them to be in the position we try really, really hard. And you know what? I've been there. We're compassionate. We're not the ogres that people might think, and we try hard to collect, but sometimes things happen, and once you're off, if you're off for non-pay,
Yeah.
you're off. We'll see you in the morning.
You did tell me you got the nice big red note on the door.
Well, and it says right on there,
That's
you're
right.
off for non-payment, so
Right.
Yep.
don't ignore things that come in red from City Hall. Call customer service.
Okay. Jeannie, you have anything? Chief?
Yeah, we're about a month into our redeployment plan where we scheduled officers on a 10-4 schedule. The purpose of that was to create an opportunity for us to double our staffing during the busiest hours of the day. And what that's done for us, It's created an opportunity for people to be more proactive. Our bike officers have made 5 felony arrests just in the last 2 weeks. So that's been really successful. And I wanted to point out Wayne Bland on, I think it was Thursday of last week, stopped a car on the highway. He was suspicious of the passenger right off the bat. The driver had warrants. He got Olathe to come down. They did a fingerprint check and found out that the passenger was lying about his identity, so they arrested him. And he got back to the station, and something just didn't sit right with him, so he Googled the guy and found out that he was wanted for a double shooting in Pueblo, Colorado, and the warrants weren't in the computer yet. So they held him. Pueblo came down on Friday, did an extradition. He did a great job. Just something just didn't sit well with him, and the power of Google. And it had made the news, but the warrants weren't in there yet, that this guy was a suspect. So had a great arrest on that.
Excellent work.
I was gonna ask if there was any kind of commendation for that kind of activity.
We're doing something internally, but, we may consider that for something more when that time comes around. They ask us for nominations, typically towards the end of the year, so
Well, fantastic.
that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chief. Does council have anything for staff? Or for one another?
I've got a list of things, so go first.
Go ahead.
Well, Adam Boydston was unable to make it tonight, so I'm here on his behalf. So he did want me to let everyone know that he did receive information from Brian, and he is currently going over it. So, and he'll be here, I guess, next Monday. His schedule's off. So he was extremely ecstatic about that, as you might imagine. So on the, we did get, I think, consensus from council on fireworks, both shooting and selling, but I had some recommendations. I thought I would go over real quick for next year.
Yeah. I don't have any problem with getting to a meeting. I don't think we quite got to consensus
I thought we did.
last meeting, but I actually went back and watched.
Okay, then,
I don't know that we were there. Not that it matters. I think that there's probably, is there consensus to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, on balance.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, on balance,
Yes.
I'm in favor, but we'd have to have some stipulations.
well, I've got some recommendations based
Yeah.
on what I found out from other municipalities. July 3rd and 4th is pretty much the days that it's legal to shoot off. There's a $1,000 permit fee, as most municipalities have for, to allow the permit. Setup's usually June 28th, and then sell 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So if we can get consensus on those, we could have staff start to work on that so that we have all that finalized and can actually vote on it.
Is there a
For selling.
possibility?
For selling, well, and then the shooting off thing is,
That's a separate issue.
there's separate issues,
Yeah,
right?
that's
There's a
the
lot of
ordinance.
nitnoids, things that we'll have to talk
Okay,
about there.
but that was one of my, so, I mean, we have
Yeah, are we,
consensus on that?
we're willing to discuss this and.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Work session or.
Right,
Probably,
exactly.
probably
No,
work session.
I think there's a significant revenue potential for sales.
Right.
The concern here is really more, how do we protect the citizens, particularly in times like, if we have unusually dry weather, which was not this year, obviously, but I mean, in other years, we've had dry weather.
Sure.
How do we manage that? What would be our,
Right.
there's things in there that we'd have to look at.
Right, understand.
Time limits, stuff like that. I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night, somebody started shooting them up right behind the house, frightened the feces out of my number 2 dog, so,
Yeah.
right on the back porch.
I was scared of a rooster or two as well.
Well, actually.
No roosters, no roosters.
Actually,
Chickens.
she's never been scared of the
Oh, is that
fireworks
right?
before.
I was also gonna ask about our buy Gardner First policy. Did we get consensus on that, or are we still needing that for staff?
Okay, so that kind of fell behind the budget pot right now, the
Okay.
cooking pot, but Ryan did provide some information. I'm going through it because there is a whole lot involved for grants.
Mhm.
You gotta have there's quite a bit of stuff. There's new guidelines on grants and local preference policy, so frankly, I'm still working on the research that Brian gave me, and I'm just simply not prepared until we get through budget. But it is not off the calendar, it is just off the on-fire calendar.
Great. Yeah, and then, I did notice in the expenses, we spent $150 at Fastenal on bug spray for 3 different departments. I just thought that, I mean, Fastenal is probably not the primary place to buy bug spray, I'm guessing, but do we always provide bug spray to city staff? Is that something I mean, because I wonder about the liability of that if we give them bug spray and then later on they get cancer and, you know, hey, we provided it, so.
Well, and Brian's not here.
I know. So.
He knew that question was coming.
Yeah, right. I know, so, but I want to bring it up to council as a whole, do we need to look into that? I mean, so, oh, yes, 4th of July, fantastic job out there, you know, and I want to thank the volunteers from the Citizens Police Academy who came out and helped, and then the Johnson County CERT. They did a fantastic job, all volunteer force out there helping, and they couldn't have done any better, I don't think. But I did have some citizens contact me about the music selection. There was some bumping and grinding, I guess, during the fireworks. They thought they might want to make that next year more like patriotic or something. So that was the only thing I heard negative, really. So just FYI. And then finally, I don't know if you all know this, Don Roberts retired or quit or whatever it was after 26 years here, and I wasn't notified. I guess there was some kind of a going away party for him. I thought council probably should be involved and invited to those kind of things when we have employees who are here that long, especially, at least get some kind of notification, even whether we're coming to it or not. But for employees who've been involved with the city that long, I think it's only fair to let us know about it so we can come tell them thank you for all their service. So, just in the future, appreciate that.
Duly noted, it sounds like.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Todd? Lee?
I was just wondering if there was any update on the airport that could be shared.
Yes, we have been working on an update of the airport. We notified them that council's requested that we move to the chambers for their future meetings, so they are going to be doing that. We have started also working on preparing some information to bring back to you that's legal, to take a look at the agreement that we have with them. You all asked us about the legality of that agreement, so we've asked our city attorney to take a look at that as well. And
We've determined that it may be legal, but not, and especially
best practice.
best practice type of agreement, okay?
Legal, okay, best practice, debatable.
So what are the next steps?
I think that it would be important for us to kind of have a workshop and talk about several things related to the airport. There's an opportunity for the airport to really be an economic development engine for the city, particularly with our proximity to the intermodal center and the way airports functions in terms of hierarchy of airports. There's funding for land acquisition. There's an opportunity to look at funding related to hangars. There's a review and assessment of hangars. There's a review of how it's staffed. Their review and concerns related to audit and separation of duties. So I really would like to kind of lay those out and get some feedback from you all related to how do you see the airport, what would you like to do with the airport, and how does it function as an asset for the city?
Is it the type of thing where we could also get an idea at the same work session of what, you know, standard industry best practices are, and maybe what some surrounding jurisdictions are doing as well?
Like Johnson County Executive.
Or Miami County, GA.
Sure, we can do that.
You know, Salina's got a really
Okay.
interesting looking.
So what time frame are we talking about?
once we gather the information, I'd like for us to sit down again internally with legal and go over it. I see us probably not getting back to you until we get the budget in front of you for the August adoption, so after.
At least mid-August.
I think it'd be mid-August or September for sure, yes.
Okay.
There's also some extensive lease information that I'd like to look at, as a result of some information that's been provided to staff, so I'd like to have an opportunity to sort through some of that information also with our legal counsel.
Thank you.
Anything else, Lee?
No.
Steve?
Yeah, the only thing I've got really is, I think that, we have a contractual situation that we probably need to start to look at, and that is the one regarding our city administrator. I understand your contract is up at the end of the year, correct?
March,
March of next year.
yes.
So I think that we need to start those discussions. And I don't know how much that would have to happen in executive session, Ryan, or, I mean, we would probably need to schedule a session at some point in the future.
It's a
meeting.
permitted subject of executive
Okay,
session.
so I think that we probably need to get started on that process. Is there consensus on that, Mayor?
There is from the chair.
Okay, so I think that that's something we need to start now that we've had, our group together for a couple of months and we've been able to get into our positions. I think it's probably time now to start that process.
Anything else?
Nothing else, although I do want to congratulate the Parks and Rec folks on that work in the 4th of July. I wasn't there. I was in Illinois at the time, slightly larger fireworks display up there. And my father-in-law has his birthday is the 4th of July, so I never am here for 4th of July. But I heard some very good things from people out there, and want to commend your staff. You're small but mighty.
Small but mighty, and I'll
And,
tell you, we've already started making some plans on some new additions for next year, so.
Excellent.
Should be even better.
Great. And I know we've got $8,000 in the budget for fireworks, and there have been some talk on certain social media outlets, which I will not name, that we might be able to even look at some possibilities of doing some sponsorship and maybe increasing that amount by reaching out to our corporate and business community. So,
Yeah, certainly. We've been partnering with some already, but the more we can bring in, the better the show.
absolutely. All right, great. Thanks a lot. That's all I have.
Okay. I've only got a couple of things. I've heard from one citizen in particular about the language regarding the sales tax initiative that's going to come up in September. This person's unhappy with the fact that the language isn't specific enough. I think that listing it as infrastructure and then modifying it with all the things we modified it with, streets, sidewalks, trails, bridges, stuff like that, was sufficient. I don't think that he's necessarily happy with that. I'm hoping that maybe the idea of oversight being provided for this with the Streets and Sidewalk and Stormwater Committee might alleviate some fears. But as I understand it, Brian, it does mean infrastructure, so it could be things other than what it has been, the sentence was modified to say. Is that correct? Okay. But I think we all had an idea that was either it or close to it when we approved it unanimously, so.
Yeah.
There's also timelines, and Cheryl, I mean, when we approved this, we were getting close to the timeline where if we didn't approve it, we couldn't have the September 15th election, and if we don't have the September 15th election, we can't institute it at the same time that the other one's expiring, correct?
That is correct.
So,
And we're on track with the notifications that we're required to provide to the supervisor of elections office.
so if it's meant to be a renewal, we want it to be a seamless renewal.
Sure.
I think that was the intentional.
Yes.
And I think that, getting back to the language, we need to have enough flexibility in that language to be able to take into account contingencies, okay? If we lock ourselves too tightly on language, and I totally understand, we don't want to be making this a slush fund, okay? That's not the intention here.
No.
But I don't think that was what the language says at all. It says, it says it's infrastructure related, okay? So you must spend on infrastructure, including but not limited to what we have in there, but it can only be used on infrastructure. We're not gonna be using this for, Parks and Rec or for, other than the trails and the bridges.
I think the language could have been improved by adding that parenthetical, but not limited to.
Okay.
But the die is cast. And don't say Parks and Rec. Every time you say, well, not funding Parks and Rec, Jeff dies a little bit inside.
Jeff's got a lot of money in the last few years at Parks and Rec.
Just a little bit.
And we're still getting you your West Side Park. We're gonna get it for you.
All right. I've got one last thing. I got mail here at City Hall from a couple of,
Mail?
I know, actual mail.
Like letters?
Letters from a couple of youngsters, and it's very interesting. On the front end, they're talking about where they need a skate park, and by gosh, they wrote back shortly thereafter and started spelling some stuff out and getting pretty specific. I've shared this with Parks and Recreation Director, and Jeff, I believe that something like this is kind of in the master plan wish list that was developed 5 or 6 years ago.
That is correct. In the most recent update, which was completed in 2009, it is one of the future projects that's identified in the Park System Master Plan. It's not a funded item at this time, but it is a facility that has been identified.
The thoughts expressed by the young folks, I think, take it home and read it, and let's give it some consideration, because I think these are smart kids, and I think they've got a good idea, and it bears consideration in the future.
Do you see this, envision this as kind of being similar to the skate park there's one in Lenexa that's a very nice park, and then there's also one over by the Overland Park Soccer Complex that is very heavily used, by the way. There's a lot of kids out there
Sure.
in both those parks.
I think the key here is how it's designed and developed, the materials that are used. I've seen very poor examples of facilities that have been built that simply do not last any period of time at all. They're, quite frankly, very rough on these kinds of facilities, so whether that be concrete or other materials that are made to last, and I think these young folks have even cited 1 or 2 possible consultants or companies. One of them I'm actually fairly familiar with, and they do a nice job, but you pointed out a couple of those, Councilmember Shute, that are examples, one concrete, one some of the other.
Fiberglass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be some options. But it is not cheap.
It is not.
Yeah. Well, just food for thought for future planning, but I'll give a shout out to Parker and Logan Mason. Good job, fellas. You're on the radar.
And you can attend a council meeting, by the way. That we
Yes.
attend. Yes, you absolutely can attend.
Absolutely.
Chief,
And I-
any chance we could get you, your guys, some skateboards, and they could... Absolutely. All right.
Yeah. We'll
I-
shred it. You'll
all
shred
right.
with the festival, huh?
All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Moore, second, shoot that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, any abstention, we're adjourned.
Sir? So right after the public comments, then they'll move to approve the consent.
Yes, let's talk.
Type.
Yep. I got you.